the sense of belonging. Some people die before they fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence. Fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence. Such a waste of existence.
And the anxious earth is rising. Anxious earth is rising. I'm so happy.
We spend our life searching for the sense of belonging. Die before they fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence.
Why did that? Hey, hello. Let's see here. I've got my stream going. How about that? Always a surprise. This is Double Tribble. We're going to talk about climate change and that kind of stuff today. I have. Hang on just 1 second. I got to turn down something. Yeah, I'm ready to stream. Trust me. Okay. All right, so I think it's working now. And I have been having, the last couple streams I had technical problems. You know, the stream we'd be going along and all of a sudden I'd go, I guess, for a few seconds, and I'd go some more, and then it'd go, it'd stop again, you know. So I'm like, you know, it says I'm excellent now. I turned the bit rate down, I did this, I did that, did all the things they said. And so I could go to 24 frames per second, but I think that would look funny. So I'm going to keep it at 30. All right, so we're going to talk about, let me introduce myself. I'm Ron. I live in rural New Hampshire. I'm surrounded by forests here. Got all kinds of animals and cool stuff. Once in a while I'll do an IRL. Last stream, was it last stream or stream before? I did last stream yesterday. I did a skiing stream. I just stuck the my webcam out the window and showed me skiing in my backyard. So just all kinds of different stuff. Mostly science stuff, sci-fi movies. I'm vegan. Talk about that occasionally. I'm neuro-D. I got social dyslexia, so that comes up once in a while. A lot of stuff. So I don't know. I guess it's a variety streamer. I don't know. But today we're going to talk about climate change. I've noticed that there are a lot of people who say, climate change, blah, and they talk about it all, and then you find out that they, travel to conferences all over the place all the time, or they, or they're streaming from, Norway or Greenland or something, and they're in short sleeves, in the middle of the winter. Well, Greenland's okay because they use geothermal, but it's like people don't understand the things that they can do on their own to end climate change, or at least end the progression, not make it worse. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, because I don't think people understand. They don't get it. I mean, right now I'm using electricity, right, to do this stream, but the electricity that I'm using is renewable, and that's one of the things we'll talk about today, is how to use, and in fact some of it's still solar. We got the sun out there still, and I'm getting a little bit of solar, so at least part of this is just solar generated right here, but the rest of it is, I think, hydro. So yeah, things that you can do, if you're a streamer and you're a gamer or whatever. Call your electric utility and have them switch over to renewable, and they'll do that. If you live in the U.S., they'll do that, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, it just seems that there are a lot of people who just don't get it. I don't know. I think what it is people are talking about climate change, and then the fossil fuel industry or whoever puts pressure on the media companies not to talk to people or not explain to people what they can do to actually change it. Everybody thinks, we gotta convince the politicians to act. No, that ain't gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. They're not gonna act. They're gonna do what whoever pays them the most money. Whoever bribes them the most, which is the fossil fuel companies right now. So you got to do it. We got to do it on our own. We got to figure out how to stop this on our own, how to stop the making climate change worse. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. And I made a list of a bunch of things. I started out, I originally had this stream named 39 things you can do. But I don't know, there are a lot of different things, and I have a whole list of them here, and I'll just go through this list and talk about them. But just generally, right, I hope everybody understands by now at least what is causing climate change generally, that CO2 mostly and other gases get emitted into the atmosphere, into the air, and it goes up, all throughout the atmosphere, and then it causes the heat to be retained in Earth. The way Earth works, we get a lot of energy from the sun all the time, right? Sun is on the Earth all the time. Even at nighttime, the sun is on Earth, just on the other side of the Earth from where you're at, right? So it's always on the earth. It's always giving energy to the earth. And then the earth is constantly radiating out energy. The earth is creating its own energy, its own nuclear energy from nuclear decay. The earth makes about half the energy that comes from the ground, from the earth underneath, is from that makes the volcanoes and all that stuff that make it hot, makes the ground hot, and makes volcanoes. That half of that is from nuclear decay, and half of it is from just the original stuff coming together to make the earth, the compression or the gravitational force that pulls things together and things that bump into the earth and stuff like that early on. All right, so anyway, so the earth is letting out heat and it's taking in heat all the time, and that's doesn't change very quickly. Usually it takes millions of years for that to change. But now we've been pumping CO2 into the atmosphere. That gets up in the atmosphere, and the stuff the heat that normally gets radiated just straight out into space ends up getting radiated in and absorbed by these greenhouse gases, and then they re-radiate the heat. They get the heat, they heat up, then they re-radiate the heat, and part of the heat that they radiate goes back out into space, but part of it comes back down. So overall, it's causing the Earth to get hotter. Also, the extra CO2 makes things more acidic, and so when it gets into the ocean and other environments, it makes things more acidic, and some animals don't like that. Some plants don't like that. So that's another problem that's caused by that. And it's not just CO2, it's methane, it's lots of things. And CO2 comes from burning stuff, mostly. I mean, it comes from respiration, right? We make CO2 all the time. And then the plants take up the CO2. You know how that cycle works, right? You learned that in kindergarten, right? Isn't that where you learn that? So, but CO2 comes from it goes up into the atmosphere from industrial and other stuff, is from burning stuff. If you burn wood or plant material or something like that, it bounces out, because when the plant grew up, it captured CO2 from the atmosphere. It took the carbon, used the carbon to help make the plant or make the wood or whatever, and release the oxygen. And then we breathe in the oxygen, and in part of our cycle, we end up putting carbon back onto that oxygen, and then breathe it out as carbon dioxide. So that's kind of a balanced thing, right? But if you take something that grew millions of years ago and has been in the ground for a long time, and then dig it up and burn it, that puts extra CO2 in the air, and that's what the problem is. What we've been doing is we were digging up coal and burning that coal is a fossil fuel. Fossil fuel is a like coal or oil or gas that was produced a long time ago from plants and animals that lived a long time ago and died, and their carbon hydrocarbons end up in the ground, and then we dig them up and burn them, and that's what causes the problem. Okay, so the idea is you want to reduce burning stuff, burning fossil fuels mostly. You can burn wood. That's okay to burn wood or paper or whatever, and make sure you don't cause other problems with soot and all that. But burning stuff that has been buried for millions of years and digging it up and then releasing that into the earth very quickly, what we've been doing the last 100 years or so, that's bad. So we want to reduce that. And right, cars do that. I mean, what they dig it up. They have been digging up coal. They take the coal, bring it to a power plant. They burn that coal. All that CO2 goes up into the air. Then they take the heat from that burning and turn generators make electricity. That's what they do. Or they do that with gas. They drill for gas and take the gas out, like natural gas or propane or whatever, and burn that and make heat and turn generators and make electricity. So electricity is a big source then, right, of carbon dioxide going into the air. So if you reduce electricity, or you only consume electricity that comes from renewable sources like wind turbines or solar or hydro or even our nuclear plants are not technically renewable, but they're not putting carbon into the air. So if you make electricity from those things, then it's cool. Then you're not making things worse in terms of global warming. So that's a big source. The other source, of course, is they take the gas, and then people use, they pipe the gas or deliver the gas to people to burn, to heat up their homes or their stoves or whatever, or the fire pits in their barbecues or whatever in the backyard or whatever. That's another way. Or they dig up oil and make products out of that burn, like gasoline mostly, gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, stuff like that. And when you burn them, again, the CO2 goes up into the air. So that's what you want to avoid, all those things. So that's the basics, right? That's basically what's going on. And the politicians are going to fix it. It doesn't matter if you vote. Voting once every 2 years or 4 years or whatever isn't going to change. That's not going to fix it. We got to do it ourselves. We got to do this ourselves. We got to change what we do. And so I'll go through my list here. Let's see. All right. Now this list is not in any particular order. In fact, this is not a big deal. Most people have already done this. Use these little LED lights. You know what those look like, right? Let me see if I got one here. I'll just put them away. Let me get one for you. Okay, so you got LED. This is the new LED lights, right? You guys are familiar with those, right? They're on. If you go to the store, chances are you're going to buy an LED light. You won't even be able to find these incandescent ones. The incandescent ones are the old-fashioned style like this. You can't see it in there, but there's a little filament, and all it does is just run electricity through that little filament and heat it up, and it gets really, really hot, and that energy gets released as heat, and a small portion of it gets released as light. But most of it gets released as heat. And so it's wasteful. So this bulb here is, what is this? This one's 29 watts. This one here is 7 watts. And this puts out a ton more light than this does. Okay, so they're more efficient. LEDs work through another process. I won't get into that. Maybe I'll talk about that in one of my science streams. But it uses an LED, a light emitting diode, that is much more efficient. That releases more energy in the visible range, so we can see it, and it's more efficient. So it uses less electricity, which is what you want to do. You want to reduce how much electricity you're using, especially if the electricity that you're using came from burning coal or burning gas, burning stuff, burning anything other than uranium-235 or plutonium or something, which isn't that's nuclear reaction. That's not chemical burning. So LED lights. These aren't in any particular order. I tried to put the ones that are less useful at the beginning, but I didn't. And it also depends on your situation. If you're in the middle of winter like right now, you can, if you burn this light that electricity is going to help heat your home, right? But if you do this, if you burn this bulb in the summer when you're using the air conditioning, then it's a double whammy, right? It's releasing heat, then you got to use the air conditioning to pull that heat out of your room. So in the winter, it's not as bad. And if you're using renewable electricity and you burn these in the winter, that's not a big deal, right? It's not as bad as other times or other situations. Okay, so let's see if I can go to the next one here. I've got a whole bunch of them here, so I want to go really fast. Oh, it's the same thing. Use passive glow-in-the-dark lighting. I got these. I've got one around here somewhere. I actually started a company years ago. I don't think I have one around here somewhere. No, I don't know where it went. But you can get, you know, this glow-in-the-dark stuff. You can take. I've got sheets of this stuff that just long, a big whole. I bought a whole roll of it, and you can just hang it or make things out of it or whatever, and it'll absorb the light, the energy from just passive light, you know, during the day, and then at night it makes a little glow like a night light, and so that's just free lighting for nothing, you know, and it doesn't use any electricity. So that's something you could do too, but it's just a little bit. It's only a little bit of saving, a little bit of light. All right, compost food waste. This is just, you know, this, I don't know if this saves that much energy. It saves the energy of hauling the stuff to the dump, right? If you dumped it in your garbage. So the extra energy that it would take to transport it, you'd save that. And also it's just, you know, it's wasteful to take plant material and just bury it, you know, good soil or whatever. That one's not that big of a deal. Okay, grow your own food. That's kind of important. If you buy food at the store, they had to, first of all, when they grew the food, chances are they used machinery that's powered by fossil fuels in order to grow that food. And then after they grew it, they used another machine that used fossil fuels to harvest it, and trucks that use fossil fuel to transport it and get it to your store and everything else. And the packaging that they put it in took energy to make that packaging that produced CO2, you know. So it's if you can grow your own, you know, without using gas powered stuff, you know, just grow your own stuff in the backyard. It's you know, if you like to do that kind of stuff, it's kind of fun. You should try it. If you haven't tried that, it's a cool thing to try. If you're not, you know, if you live in an apartment or something like that, you can ask around, find out if there's a community garden around somewhere that you can, you know, use to grow food at. So that's another thing you can do. And then organic, all the chemicals and stuff that they use. Some of the chemicals are fossil fuels. They're derived from fossil fuels. Some of them, you know, all of them take energy to process, you know, make this stuff and to transport it. And, you know, not to mention it, you know, kills a lot of insects. It kills a lot of animals. It can possibly be a health problem for you and everything else. So, which is another one. Another one I have on this list here is to stay healthy. You want to make sure you stay healthy because that can actually produce more CO2 if you're not healthy. Believe me, we'll get to it. Be vegan. That's really important. When you eat, if you eat animal products, those animal products take more energy and more everything to produce than the vegetables, because the animals have to eat vegetable product like or plants like green or whatever, or anything, whatever they eat. They're eating some plant food to grow, and the amount of calories and food that come from, you know, when they kill the animal and cut them up, dismember the animal and cut them all up and put them in packages and all that kind of stuff. That meat, that flesh, the amount of calories in there is much less than the calories that they consumed, because they're burning calories to stay alive, right? So it's wasteful. It wastes stuff. Wastes water, which uses electricity often to transport. It uses more energy to grow the crops. Blah blah blah. So be vegan. And if you are kind of off topic, people, I tell them they're vegan. I always get some smart ass who says, well, what about the plants? You're harming the plants, And so I say, hey, if you're worried about harming plants, then you should be vegan, because if you're eating animals, you're killing more plants than if you're vegan. Okay, so all right, so yeah, and if you can't, people think it's hard. It's not hard at all now. When I became vegan over 40 years ago, it was hard. It was not easy to be vegan at all. Most products had animal stuff in it, and it was really, really hard. It helps if you learn how to cook, but nowadays there are so many products out there now that are vegan. It's simple to be vegan. It really is. There's no reason not to be. And when you do that, there are two things you gotta make sure you do. To eat a variety diet, right? Don't eat the same thing all the time. That's not good. You should eat a variety of different foods. Any diet, you should eat a variety of different foods so that you get a good mix of nutrients. But if you're vegan, you need to make sure you take B12 supplements, because it's the way our food is done and everything nowadays. It's difficult to get B12 from the diet. There are ways to do it, which is kind of complicated. I won't get into it right now. But you should take a B12 supplement. And B12 is stored for a long, long time. Years and years and years. It gets stored in the fat in your body. It's a fat-soluble vitamin. So if you just, it's not like you have to take B12 supplement daily or something. I take them, once a week or a couple times a week, or just whenever I think of it or whatever. But if you forget about it, like I did, I forgot about it for a long time and it started getting a little bit low. So and you should be tested for it too. Yeah, if you're vegan, ask your doctor to test you for B12 every once in a while, because if you do get low on B12 for a long time, it can cause nerve damage and stuff like that. It can be really bad. And historically, like the caveman and all that stuff, if they were eating a plant-based diet, they'd end up eating insects and stuff when they ate the vegetables and everything else. We don't do that so much here now, being vegan. So it's harder for us to get B12. The other thing is vitamin D, and everybody should worry about vitamin D, because vitamin D is hard to find unless you're eating fish liver, or the liver of an animal, or something like that. Then it's hard to get from like a carnivorous diet, and it's hard to get from plants, except through certain fungi that get exposed to light can produce vitamin D. And that's how we get our vitamin D normally, is exposure of our skin to the sun, and it produces vitamin D, or a precursor to vitamin D, and then we metabolize it into vitamin D. But if you go in the sun, you get skin cancer and stuff like that. So a lot of people nowadays have vitamin D deficiency, whether they're vegan or not. Even if they're carnivores, they could have a vitamin D deficiency. So that's another thing you might want to supplement. And you have to be careful about the supplements that you take, because a lot of them have issues. Anyway, okay, that's getting off the topic. Okay, buy local. Yeah, anything, food or any product, they got to transport it. right? To get it, they use energy to make the thing. Then after they make the thing, then they have to use energy to transport it. They put it on a truck that burns diesel and produces CO2. When they manufacture it, they use energy to manufacture it. That produces CO2. All that. So if you buy local, locally made stuff, which is kind of hard to do these days, right? But you can do it. You can buy like crafts at swap meets and stuff like that. I mean, there are things that you can do to buy local. And food, a lot of places are offering local food now. So if you can buy local, buy stuff or as close stuff that was grown or produced as close as possible. But even better is to buy used stuff instead of buying new stuff. If you buy something that's used, your purchase of that thing doesn't make any more CO2s at all, right? You're taking something that somebody else had already made CO2 with by buying new, and then you buy that thing from them, and it doesn't produce any more CO2. So that's even better. If you can buy used stuff, I buy almost all my stuff used. You can buy them on eBay, but if eBay, then they have to ship it, so there's energy used there. But like at a thrift shop or something like that, or yard sales, or a lot of different places you can get used stuff. That's a better way to do it. Buy used things instead of new things. Repair, yeah. If you try to repair what you have, that can be like a hobby almost. I repair a lot of different stuff of my own, because I just do. A lot of different things. I was trying to think of the last thing that I did. I did something that was really. Oh, my headphones. That's right. Oh, I have my headphones with me. Yeah, my headphones I repaired a whole bunch of times. But then they just broke just recently because the plastic, when it gets really cold, plastic gets brittle and it breaks real easy. If you live in the cold, you know what I'm talking about. Plastic loses its ductability. Is that what it's called? Ductability? So, flexibility. And any piece of plastic, if you drop it or just bend it just a little bit, it'll snap, when it's cold like this. And my headphones, that happened to my headphones. I put my headphones down and it broke one of the ear things off, of the headphone. And it would turn out it was just a piece of plastic that had broken in there, a dowel. And I repaired it. And I went and got a nail and sawed it off and made a little dowel out of it and repaired it. And it's better than new now because I replaced that plastic part with a piece of brass or cad plated. I don't know. It was a nail. It was a nail, a decorative nail, so it had a kind of cool color to it. So anyway, better than new now. So, and you can do that. So repair stuff rather than tossing. If something breaks, repair it. Or if you're not into repair, maybe there's somebody in your house who likes to repair stuff, or you have a friend that likes to repair stuff, or whatever. You can barter with them, trade or whatever. But do that rather than buying new stuff, or even used stuff. Because if you repair it, unless you're using energy to repair it, like a power drill or something like that, or and even that is not that much energy. It's compared to transporting it, product. So repair instead of replace. And make sure, when you buy stuff, if you do buy stuff, new or used stuff, make sure it's stuff that can be repaired, and buy stuff that's more durable. You get all these Chinese stuff. Yeah, I get these flashlights from China. I don't think I've ever bought a flashlight from China that lasted more than a month. It's just ridiculous, and they're hard to repair. So when you buy stuff that you can repair yourself. Buy stuff that has like some things. Have like batteries in them that only last a certain amount of time, and you can't even take the battery out and replace it, So people end up just throwing them away. You know, that's wasteful. So buy stuff that you can repair, and buy stuff that's durable, stuff that's not going to break there easily, or things that are not designed to wear out. You know, we have a problem with technology, you know, with the computers and stuff like that, where, you know, things just, they keep improving them, and it's not too many years before a computer system is not, you know, working right. It's not working as good as a new one. And then they start, you know, they come out with new software and whatever. And so you got to buy a new one. I'm gonna take a break here. I want to make sure my thing is working here. I'll be right back. All right. So I think it's still working. For some reason, my video is not showing up on this on my display here. You know, on Twitch they've got this page you can go to that shows you everything that's going on in your stream, or supposedly. But it's not showing up on here for some reason. Okay, but I am still on, so I think. All right, so buy stuff that's not designed to wear out. Oh yeah, computer stuff. Yeah, that happens all the time. I use old computers. I was, up until recently, I had a computer that was made in 1998 that I was using as a server. Just a few months ago. It was a almost 25-year-old computer that I was using to serve web pages. So you can use the old stuff if you're, you know, if you're careful about it, and you know, use it for the right stuff and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, streaming and gaming, you know, takes takes the newest stuff all the time, you know. So it's kind of hard. So so things go out of style or whatever, you know, they become obsolete more quickly. But you can still use those old products for some stuff sometimes. But you got to be careful too, because they keep making advancements in efficiency of the things too. So the cost per you know, the amount of electricity that the thing uses per compute cycle on the older stuff is a lot more, which is the reason why I changed out my old one. I switched over to a machine that used up much less electricity. So anyway, you got to think about it. You know, if you're doing that kind of stuff, you can figure it out, right? You're a techie guy, you can figure that out. Unplug devices that you aren't using. Okay, this is you'll hear about this one all the time, and in some cases this can cause more CO2 to be released. I'll say that again. Unplugging devices, you know, unplug your wall warts or whatever, your devices that aren't being used, you unplug them so they don't use electricity. Sometimes that can cause more CO2 to be released than if you left them plugged in. And the reason is in the winter, if you have those devices plugged in, the little transformers inside there are still using up a little tiny bit of current, even though you're not running the device, and it's 24 hour, right, all the time. In the wintertime, anytime it's releasing heat. When it's doing that, it's using up electricity and it's making heat. In the wintertime, that's good, right? You want more heat in your house. And so if you unplug in the wintertime, if you unplug those devices, if you're using, say you're using a renewable energy source for your electricity, or you have solar or something like that, or you've made a deal with your electric company to give you only renewable electricity, then that electricity that that little device is using all the time is not putting CO2 into the air because it's your renewable, right? But it is producing heat in your house. And if you are also using, say, gas for your heat, or oil, burning fuel oil or something like that, some fossil fuel to make the heat in your house, then the heat, by unplugging that device, you would lose that little bit of heat that it was making, and that little bit of heat would have to be replaced with the fossil fuel generated heat. So it's not that much difference. This is like one of the most minor things, unplugging these devices, but that's what can happen. So in some cases, doing this could cause more. In the summertime, yeah, it's probably a good idea to unplug them because they're making a little bit extra heat, and then if you got to run your air conditioner to cool down the house, then that's working against you, right? So kind of complicated, but it's not that much. It's not a lot of, you're not going to, maybe not even a kilowatt hour probably per month of those little devices. So it's not that big of a deal. Use less plastic, right? Yeah, plastic. Plastic comes from fossil fuels. It's made with oil products and stuff, right? It's a byproduct of the oil industry. Most of it. They're starting to get more plastics there. You can make plastic out of a lot of different stuff. Just you got to find a polymer that'll work. But most plastic right now is made from fossil fuel stuff, and it's the same thing. It takes energy to make the plastic and everything else. Now it also takes energy, a lot of energy, to make glass. Also, so if you do use plastic, then reuse them. When you're done with them. Using those containers for something else or whatever. Like I got plastic right here, right? So these bottles. In fact, I'm using plastic right now as an insulator on my car. I took up all old plastic and plastic bottles and bags and stuff like that, and put them into a trash bag, made a big tunnel or some stuff. Anyways, basically a bunch of plastic stuffed into this thing that I could use as an insulator for my car, because I wanted to insulate the battery in my car. I have an electric car, and it gets cold enough here that I want to treat the battery nice, and I don't have a garage, so you can use that plastic for insulator. Now I don't know why they don't. They have all these. Recycle your plastic, right? If you do use plastic, make sure you recycle it. But this recycled plastic, they compress them down in these big cubes, like like 12 feet across or something, or 12 feet square cubes. And then they ship them to China for some reason. I don't know why they do that, or they used to at least. But that plastic is a very, very good insulator. If you took that plastic and used that in building, or made it fire resistant, and used it in building material or something like that, that's an excellent insulator. So I don't know why they don't use that. But anyway, use less plastic, make sure you recycle plastic, all that. Plant trees. This only works if you plant trees where there were no trees before. Right? Right. The trees take in a lot of CO2. They do a lot of respiration. Trees do. They take in a lot of CO2 and release a lot of oxygen. But if you like cut down a tree and then plant a new tree to replace it, that's no good. That's not helping, right? Because the tree you cut down is eventually gonna rot or be burned or something. But if you got somewhere where there is no tree, and then you plant a tree, and you don't have to water, it's something that just naturally gets watered, right? Because water and stuff takes electricity, right? Or takes energy. But if you just plant a tree somewhere where there is no tree, then that tree, as it grows up, will bring in carbon dioxide, and for the life of that tree, anyway, all the or most of the carbon dioxide that it takes in, the carbon will be stored in the tree. So it's kind of like a way of sequestering that carbon in the tree while the tree is alive. Anyway, it'll eventually the tree will eventually die or whatever, and then when it decomposes or gets burned or whatever, that will make CO2 again. You know, when it decomposes, the little bugs that decompose it end up making CO2. You know, too. So it doesn't matter if you burn it or let it decompose or whatever. It doesn't make any difference. It's still going to go up into the CO2. But while the tree is growing, which is a long time, right? Trees can grow dozens of decades, right? Hundreds of years in some cases. So while that tree is growing, it will store that carbon. So that's something you can do. But it only works if you plant a new tree where there wasn't a tree before, you know, extra tree. Avoid travel. This is the one thing that just really gets me. You know, I see people, it's like streamers and everybody, you know, talking about how, you know, they're so conscious about CO2, you know, climate change and all that kind of stuff, but then they end up, you know, traveling all over the place. I see streamers doing IRL, you know, and they travel everywhere. They're traveling every other day. They're getting on a freaking airplane and spewing CO2 into the air. And they get to where they're going, they're talking, and then every once in a while you hear them say, "Oh yeah, we got to stop climate change." You know, it's like, what the, you know, hypocrite, you know. Or conferences, you know, Twitch does this. Twitch has a conference, whatever, once or twice a year or something like that, or every other year, whatever. And people all over the world get in planes and spew CO2 into the atmosphere just to go somewhere. When you can talk to people right online, right? That's what this is for. That's why you have that's why we have this technology, right? So we can communicate without having to actually travel someplace. Let alone the you know, all the people who get sick, and then they have to energy is used in order to help treat them and everything else. You know, it's avoid travel. Avoid driving. Do I have that in here? Yeah, avoid driving. Here we go. Avoid driving. Oh, also somebody the other day told me that they said, "Oh, it's okay, I can travel because I buy offsets, carbon offsets." No, that doesn't do anything. Carbon offset does not take the CO2 back out of the air in most cases. It's just, you know, at best case they're going to invest in a wind farm or something, you know, and maybe it gets built, maybe it doesn't. But, so those offsets are not, that doesn't, it may help you relieve your guilt, but it doesn't help the environment. Okay, so avoid travel, and avoid driving places. I drive maybe once or twice a month is all I drive. And I make sure that I live in a rural area, so I'm kind of in a different situation than a lot of people maybe. But you know, I plan my trip, make sure I get everything that I need for the next couple weeks, you know, or 3 weeks or a month or whatever. And if you're vegan, you don't have to worry about your milk going bad or your meat going bad or whatever. You know, you can buy stuff that's going to stay good for a long time, you know, years in some cases. So avoid driving if you can, and like work. Let's see, is that one of my things here? That's another one I do. Yeah, walk. Yeah, you can walk or bike rather than driving or taking the bus. Everybody says, "Oh, take the bus instead of driving." Well, the bus, you know, is going to most of them, almost all of them now, are still put CO2 in the air when they go, right? So even if they're an electric bus, you don't know if the electricity that they're using is from a renewable source. You know, it may, in most cases, it's just going to be, they're going to be burning coal or burning gas or whatever, and putting CO2 into the air to make the electricity to make the bus go. So if you can bike somewhere or walk, just walk somewhere. If you, especially if you're in an urban environment somewhere, you know, or you're in an apartment or something, you're taking an elevator to go down. Chances are you've got a place you can walk to get whatever you're trying to get, or worst case, a bike, rather than drive. I'm in a rural area. I've done it before. I've done it for a couple months. It's not easy in a rural area to walk or bike somewhere. Yeah, it's to get to any store for me is about a little over 3 miles one way. So I'm getting too old to do that. So, but if you can do that, so yeah, if you got to go a long distance, train is more efficient than flying, for sure. So if you can do that, do that. Make sure you wear your mask so you don't get sick. Wear your N95 mask. I'm going to talk about that later. Make sure you wear your N95 mask if you're using public transport, or if you go anywhere in public. Because if you get sick, that's gonna end up putting CO2 in the air, because the extra stuff they're going to use to help treat you is going to use energy and put CO2 into the air in order to make the stuff that they have to make in order to treat you for that disease. Use an electric car. Yeah, that's very important. No one should be buying a gas-powered car now, or diesel-powered car, or whatever. It's ridiculous. There's far superior than gas-powered cars. They're super reliable. They use a lot fewer components. It takes less stuff to make an electric car. You see these calculations, these people saying that there's more electricity used to dig up this stuff for the battery. That's bullshit. Okay, that's fossil fuel propaganda. They're a fraction of the number of components in an electric car than there are in a gasoline car. Gasoline car has all these pistons and a radiator, and just tons and tons and tons of bullshit. And on these cars, the electric car, you just got a motor and a battery basically, and some electronics. So it's much more reliable. And of course, it's electricity. You're not burning fossil fuel when you use an electric car. And the range on them is really far now. I have a really, really old one, which has a really short range, but I can still make it work for me, even in a rural area like this. So there's no reason why you shouldn't have an electric car. Even if you're living in like an apartment or something like that, there's going to be some place where you can charge them. And yeah, like I say, the range on them, and you can buy used. You don't have to buy a new car all the time. All right, we got a chatter here. First time chatter says, Stas. I'm gonna call you Stas because I don't know how to pronounce your name. And he says hi. And he says, let's practice dialogue. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. 257. Yeah, I don't know what that means. All right. He says, I am from another country. Well, everybody on Twitch is from another country. It depends on what country you're in. It's a worldwide thing. I am interested in knowing your opinion. Okay, this is probably a bot. That's what I'm guessing. Let's see if he responds to that. Okay, so use an electric car. Very important. Yeah, so that you should not buy, do not buy another fossil fuel powered car, ever. Don't ever do that. There's no reason why you can't. You can buy a used electric car. I paid less than $4,500 for my electric car. That was when a long time ago when they were more expensive, even, because I bought a used one. So there's no reason why you can't get an electric car if you're going to be driving a car. Very, very important. Drive slower. This one is really important, and people don't talk about this enough. If you're driving at 65, 70 miles an hour, you're wasting a lot of energy in just drag from the wind that's on your car. Hang on a second. I gotta do a moderation here. Okay, Guy. If you're not gonna ask questions about what we're talking about, then I'm just gonna make you go away. Okay, Guy. So think about that. All right. So drive slower. You gotta drive slower. Because the faster you drive, the more drag there is, the more friction there is on the car as you're driving. So if you're driving like 65 or 70 miles an hour, a lot of that energy is going into pushing your car through the air, pushing it through the wind. You know, if you're going 70 miles an hour, you put your hand out the window, you feel that pressure, right? There's a force there that's pushing against your hand. And when you're in a car, your car has to push against that force to move forward all the time, constantly. But if you're driving now, if you drove at 10 miles per hour and you put your hand out the window, you're hardly even going to feel anything. And it turns out that the faster you go, it's the square of the velocity. You know what I mean? The extra pressure, the extra friction, the extra force to push through that air goes up with the square of the velocity. So like if you change your velocity from 30 to 40 miles per hour, and that costs you this much extra force on the car. If you go the same, from 60 to 70 miles an hour, or from 70 to 80 miles an hour, that's a huge amount. That's a lot more. So you want to drive just as slowly as you can. Most places have a minimum. A lot of places have a minimum speed limit, like on a highway or freeway or something like that. And you can drive that minimum, just drive in the slow lane or whatever. Like around here, I think our big highway here is 40 miles an hour, so I drive 40 miles an hour. And it's just, you worry about time. If you're on here doing a 3-hour stream, you're not worried about time. You know what I'm talking about? Leave earlier. If you have time to sit and watch or to do a 3-hour stream, then you've got extra time to on your hands. So just drive slower. Don't drive so quickly, and you'll save a ton of energy that way. And like driving and some places have rules about making sure that you don't block traffic. We got a lot of one-way or one-way highways, or one-lane highways, so that if somebody wants to go around you, they have to pass you, and maybe they have to wait for a passing, an opportunity to pass or something like that. And some places have rules that say that you can't, if you block more than 5 cars or 8 cars or whatever, then you got to pull over or something. I don't know. You got to look at your local rules. But I wouldn't worry about it that much. I mean, if you're driving slow and somebody behind you is in a fossil fuel car, then they have to drive slow behind you, right? And they're burning less fuel too. So if you got 3 people behind you who are all driving fossil fuel cars, who would normally be going 70 miles an hour and you're going 40, then you're saving all kinds of energy that way by having them behind you, right? You may be, so what? You're pissing off somebody who's a jerk driving a fossil fuel car, Who cares if you piss them off? Maybe next time they'll get electric. I don't know. That's not probably not a good attitude, but I don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's always better to drive slower. You know, you got somebody behind you who doesn't like it. It's better to drive slower. Work from home, right? Yeah. Don't drive at all if you don't have to. Don't drive to work. You know, there's some professions where you got to go in. You got to go into work. You know, if you're a laborer of something, in construction, or work for a utility or ambulance or hospital or whatever. You know, there's some stuff that you gotta go into work. But there are a lot of professions where you can work from home. You know, just writing stuff, writing software, doing whatever. And if you're in one of those professions that you could work from home, you work in finance or something like that, and you can work from home just fine, and your boss is telling you that they don't want you working from home, they want you to come in, then fire your boss and get a new boss. Fire him. Get rid of him. Get a job where you can work from home if you can. If you're in one of those professions that you can work from home, then do it. And if your company won't let you do that, then find another company. Don't work for that company. All right. Next. If you do have to go into work, then try to live close to where you work. Right. Make your commute as short as possible. And sometimes it's hard. Right. That's a little bit harder to implement. But if you plan ahead, if you're just graduating, or moving to a new town or whatever, that's something to think about. You want to live as close as you can to your work, if you have to go into work. Keep your space dark at night. Yeah, that's something I like to do. That I like to keep my turn off the lights as much as possible. I've got to turn them on in the winter. I have to turn on lights to keep my houseplants alive. I live in New Hampshire. It's really, we're kind of northern latitude, and the sun's not up that much. This is it's 3 o'clock, and the sun's just now set. I've got another maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes light here, and then the sun goes down. Well, I got a hill here too, but anyway, it's very short days, and I have to turn on the lights a little bit. I use LED when I can. So try to keep it dark if you can. It helps you sleep better, and you don't use as much electricity. It helps. It saves your eyes. It does so much to just to allow your space to get dark at night, and it just use just a small amount of light. Like I have this little light up here. That thing uses like 3 watts or something. That light up in the corner there, if that. So you don't need that much light anyway at nighttime. It's better for you. It's better for your health. It's better for everything. And you don't produce as much CO2 when you leave the lights out. Switch to a non-carbon electricity. That's what I was just talking about. Yeah, I talked about that earlier. If you live in the U.S. and probably other countries too, contact you get your electric bill every day. There's a number on there, customer support. Pick up the phone, call them, and ask them how you can switch to renewable energy. And they'll either be able to do it for you automatically, or they'll tell you how to figure out how to find electric suppliers that supply renewable energy and switch over your electricity. Chances are it's going to be the same rate or close to the same rate. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's a little bit more. But that's a huge thing that you can do. That's better than voting, for some candidate to give you a BS story that says they're going to help that climate. That's better than a lot of different things. It's better than unplugging your wall warts of your devices. I mean, this is a biggie right here. Switching to renewable or non-carbon electricity on your utility bill. As there are at least 2 good effects on that. The first is that the first effect is, of course, that you're not for your own personal consumption, you're not using, you're not putting CO2 in the air when you run your computer and do your streaming and watch your streamers and do all your stuff, right? And wash your clothes and do all the things that you do to use electricity. You're not putting CO2 into the air if you do that, if you get it switched over. So that's the first thing it does. The second thing it does is that by, the more and more people who do that, who do switch over like that, it makes the demand for renewable energy more, which means that more wind turbine farms, more solar farms, more renewable, non-polluting sources of electricity will come online. It's supply and demand. You know how that works, right? Maybe you don't. When a business wants to produce a product or service, they figure out how many people there are that want that before they spend a bunch of money to build a manufacturing plant or whatever, or to build a product or to launch a new business or anything. They figure out, okay, how much of a demand is there for this product or service? That's MBA 101, right? That's what they do. Is there a demand for the service or the product? And so by making more and, if more and more people switch over to renewable electricity, it will, people who produce electricity will see that there's a demand for that and say, okay, we can build we should build more plants that are renewable, rather than gas or coal or whatever. So that's really important. Plus, it makes it a lot easier for you. If it is difficult for you to reduce your electricity consumption for whatever reason, then it doesn't. Your extra electricity use is not as much of a problem. It might be a problem for your wallet, but not for CO2 going. Install solar. That's another one. You can generate your own electricity. Solar keeps coming down in price, so that's a good thing that you can do, is to install solar. Or wind, if you're somewhere where you can put up your own wind turbine, but that's pretty difficult to do usually. So that's and you don't have to install 100%. You can just whatever you can afford, whatever you can do. I've got a couple of them out here that I use that they're not tied into the grid at all. It's just to recharge a battery, but anything you can do. The more solar that you can capture and use, the better. And another way to get solar energy, that I'm using solar energy right now. My computer's running off, but also I open up these windows, and I got up to 14 and a half degrees in here. This is not. I have another room that is my warm room. This room I keep just above freezing. Whatever I need to keep it above freezing. But I don't heat this area normally. I just use passive heating here, unless it gets to freezing, and I have to keep it above freezing. Otherwise, it's just passive heat. And what I do is I open up these windows here, and the solar energy comes in. We had a sunny day today, and it heated it up in here and got up to 14.5 degrees. So I said, cool, I'll do a stream today. Since it's warm enough here, I won't be able to stream for another few days because it's going to be colder than hell around here. And I don't want to waste the energy to heat up this space. And it's too hard for me to move my streaming gear into my warm room. So, yeah, that's another way to do solar. It doesn't have to be solar electricity, photovoltaic. It can just be passive solar. Just open your south windows. If you're in the northern hemisphere, if you're in the southern hemisphere, it'd be your northern windows. But Open your south windows. Let the sun come in when the sun is shining. And that's solar. That's solar energy. Free solar energy. You don't have to do anything. Just open up the drapes. Not open up the windows. Open up the drapes. Keep the windows closed. And you should have double pane windows and all that. You know all that stuff, right? Yeah. Never vote for an incumbent. Right? Don't do that. Have they fixed the problem? That's real simple. You go to vote, right? Here's a guy who's been doing it. He's been in charge, right? Or whatever. He's been your congressman or senator or whatever. Right? He's the incumbent, or she. And there's somebody else, right? So you go and you got to vote, okay? One question: has climate change been fixed? Did they fix it? Yes or no? Yes, if they fixed it, great. Vote for the incumbent. No, they didn't fix it. Vote for the other guy. Real simple. And they're never going to fix it, right? The politicians are going to fix it. So never vote for an incumbent. Eventually they'll get the message. Okay? Stop voting for these idiots who do nothing, who just talk about it and do nothing about the problem. Okay, that's my okay. Don't waste food. Don't waste food. That's really important too. People waste a lot of food. Yeah, only cook what you need to eat, or eat leftovers. Man, I eat leftovers all the time. It saves you preparing your next meal, right? You make some stuff, and whatever you don't finish up, you make a leftover, put it in there, and then your next time you eat, you just pour it out and eat what's left over. It's a lot easier. So wasting food is a big waste of energy, because it takes energy to make food, unless you're taking it all from your own garden, right? If you're buying food at a store, you're using up CO2 in order to do that. In order to get that, for somebody to grow that food, use the CO2, and to get it transport it to the store, use the CO2, and you transport it from the store to your house, use the CO2. So it's, yeah, if you can, don't waste the food at all in the first place. And if you do, use a compost, for whatever you got left over. Really, the only food waste I have is just the parts of the plants that I cut up that aren't edible, really. Every once in a while, something will go bad. I won't be able to get to it and eat it quickly enough or whatever. But, yeah, don't waste food. Use less water. That's, in most cases, that's going to save electricity. And it's not that big of a deal, usually. There might be, you might be in areas of the country where there's not a lot of water, and then they want you to use less water for that reason. But like I'm on a well here, so there's a well pump, and I was actually trying to save my water as much as possible and try to reuse it. Like I take my shower water and use that to flush the toilets occasionally, if I could, or I was trying to do stuff like that to reduce it. But then I looked it up, and I looked up exactly how much energy it takes, per gallon or per liter or whatever, to pump that water up out of the ground. It turns out it's not that much, but it's a little bit. If you're wasting huge amounts, if you're just like, growing a lawn somewhere where you have to keep it irrigated all the time to keep the water. If you're in California somewhere and you've got a lawn that you got to water every other day or something, that's a waste for you. You got to figure out something else. Don't do that. But a lot of places the water it doesn't use energy to get the water. It's all just a bunch of pipes that it's all gravity fed. But anyway, it's just a good idea not to use extra water. Yeah, plants that use less water. Yeah, I just mentioned that. Yeah, don't have a big lawn in California, right? have a rock garden or something, or a cactus garden or whatever. If you're in California or Arizona or somewhere where there's not the plants, there's not enough rain to do the plants. Around here, there isn't even a hose spigot anywhere in this house that I'm in. There is no like. When I moved here, I brought my hose with me from my previous place, and there was no place for me to cook the hose up because we get so much rain here that you don't need hose. You don't have to irrigate anything. Every once in a while, you will have a really long dry spell. If I have a dry, I grow my garden, right? Plants, my food, some food in my garden. And if I have like little seedlings going or something, and they're just getting going and laying down roots, and then we have a sunny, dry spell, then maybe I have to go out there and pour a little water on them or something. But for the most part, we don't need water around here. But so wherever you're at, plan your plants out, thinking about how much water they're going to take. Let's see. Oh, this one's really important. Water heating takes about as much energy or more than space heating. They're about the same, I guess. So depends upon what your use case is, of course. So use cold water all the time. Washing your hands, everything. Washing your clothes, washing your dishes, everything. Use cold water. Cold water in the shower is a little tough. you probably got to use unless you're really rugged. that's pretty rough. So use warm water. You can use warm water in the shower, but try to use cold water for everything else, for your clothes, for everything. And a dishwasher, you don't. Dishwashers are not just washing by hand. The dishwashing companies, the people who make the soap. One of them had this big campaign where they said, "Oh, it takes less. If you're washing dishes or whatever, it takes less water to wash with a dishwashing machine than it does by hand." And that's, but then they use a ton of electricity to heat up that water and a bunch of electricity to pump it through, and so it's better just to do it by hand, I think. Especially if you only had, it's just like one or two people, it's better just to do it by hand. Unless you're somewhere, I don't know, if you're somewhere maybe where there's a extreme water shortage or something, I don't know. But for CO2, definitely don't, wash by hand, wash your dishes by hand, and use cold water, and so that's what you do there. Let's see. Use a clothesline to dry your clothes. Yeah, don't use a clothes dryer. Unplug. If you got a clothes dryer that's gas for sure. You definitely, when you run that clothes dryer, you're definitely putting CO2 into the air. A ton of it, a lot of it. It takes a lot of heat to dry clothes in a clothes dryer. If you have an electric dryer, you're using a ton of electricity. Those things suck up a lot of electricity. Clothes you can use. I'm here. It's the middle of winter, and usually I can. There's only like a couple months here where it just never gets above freezing. Yesterday it got above freezing, and I should have hung myself out. I forgot to do it. But even if it's near freezing, if the sun is shining on your clothes, you can put it out there even when it's freezing, and they'll still dry. And in the winter, the air is dry anyway. So stuff dries really quickly in the winter, or you can just hang them in your house and they'll dry that way. Now they'll take a little bit of heat when they dry. If you have them inside the house, drying. That drying process will take a little bit of heat out of the air and put it into the moisture that comes out of the clothes when they dry. But then when that moisture condenses on your windows or wherever it condenses, that heat will be released again. If it condenses on your windows, then half of that heat is gonna, or some portion of that heat is just gonna go out through the window and it won't be useful anyway. But anyway, it's just don't use a clothes dryer. Sell your clothes dryer or dump it or something, or tear it apart. Did I spell that right? Clothesline. That looks like that's spelled right. No. Is that spelled right? My dyslexia is very bad lately, really, really bad. So I can't tell if I spelled that right or not. Yeah, don't use a clothes dryer. Get rid of your clothes dryer, or tear it down for parts and make other things out of it. Yeah, your hot water again. If you can use an on-demand hot water heater, that's probably the most efficient. It's hard to do a lot of times because they require a huge number of watts to make those things work, because it takes a lot of energy to heat water. Water takes a lot of energy to heat it up, and to try to heat it up as it's flowing through the pipe and getting delivered to your shower or whatever takes a lot of watts of energy to do that. Yeah, if you can use electric, and if you can use on demand where they don't have a tank, or maybe a small, they have different combinations now. Some have small tanks where they heat it up and they mix it with cold and then have on demand also. I mean, there's all different kind of combinations you can use there. And they have new hot water heaters that have that use heat pumps now. Oh, I should put that on here. Let me write that one in here. Use a heat pump. Okay. Yeah, some of the new water heaters have heat pumps that they use. These are for the tank, the ones with tanks, you know. They have a hot water tank. And they use a heat pump to heat up the water, which is more efficient. But it depends upon where that heat is coming from. If it's just taking heat from the ambient air in your living space in the winter, that's a problem, you know. In the summer, if it's taking ambient heat, then that's good, right? Obviously. And the other thing is yeah, right. Turn it off, right? That was the point here. No matter what you have, if you have a tank, if you have a hot water tank that is trying to store hot water for use when you need it, that tank is continually losing heat. You know, they heats the water up to 120 degrees or whatever it is, whatever temperature you got it set at. That's hotter than the surrounding, whatever is surrounding that hot water heater. And so that heat, because of thermodynamics, right, that heat is going to pass from that hotter area to the cooler area. So that hot water heater is constantly losing heat if you have hot water in a hot water tank. So the best thing you can do if you're using cold water for all those other things, is to just turn your hot water heater off when you don't need hot water. You know, if you're in a situation where you don't need to shower every day, then you can shut it off until the day that you're going to shower, and then turn it on and then heat up the water, take your shower, and then shut it off again. You know, and you know, so what? Your hot water on your faucets is going to be less than 120. Maybe it'll just be warm instead of hot, but you're not supposed to be using hot water anyway, right? So that's something you can do. Sometimes they have like a vacation mode or something you can put them in. You can look at your hot water heater and see what it is. And yeah, if you're replacing your hot water heater, make sure it's electric, and heat pump if you can. Those are a little bit more expensive. Um, so yeah, that's anything you can do to reduce the amount of energy that you're using to heat water is a has a huge effect, because heating water takes a lot of energy, about as much as it does to heat your living space. Yeah, use a heat pump. Hey, where'd that come from? Okay, I'll talk about that a little bit. I use a heat pump here now. Um, the heat pump is for the winter. It takes heat from outside and moves it inside to make it warmer inside in the winter. And even if it's 20 degrees below zero, or 10 degrees below zero outside, it could always be colder, right? Which means there's heat there. It's not absolute zero, so there's heat. There's heat in everything. No matter how cold it gets, there's always a little bit of heat in something. And unless you're at, like I say, unless you're at absolute zero, you can pull the heat out of something and put it somewhere else. And the way they do is with a heat pump. Heat pump is basically uses the same thing. It's the same technology that an air conditioner uses to cool your house. When it's used for air conditioning, it takes the heat from inside the house and puts it into a refrigerant using a heat exchanger, and moves it outside and releases that heat outside. So your house gets cooler. That's using air conditioning. And in the winter, they call it heat. They just use the term heat pump. You're taking heat from outside, transferring it into the refrigerant, moving it inside, and releasing that heat inside. And what happens is you end up with higher than 100% efficiency, which sounds impossible, but that's because you're stealing the heat from outside instead of making it yourself. Normally, like with electricity, if you just had an electric heater, that uses what they call joule heating. It's runs electricity through a wire that has a resistance, some small amount of resistance in it, and that resistance causes the electricity to create heat. And an electric heater is 100% efficient. If you have any electric heater you have is going to be 100% efficient, because all of the electricity that gets into that heater will be released as heat. That's the only place it can go, right? Even if it's moving a fan, that fan is going to blow the air around, and the air it's going to hit the air molecules, and they're going to be dissipated into heat eventually. So electric heater is 100% efficient, but it's expensive because it's more, it's because electricity is expensive. So if you use a heat pump and you use that electricity to run a compressor and a pump and a fan to move heat from outside to inside, you can get 3 or 4 or 5 times as much heat delivered inside as the amount of electricity that you're using to do that. So it's a higher, it's higher than 100%. Typically whether 300% or something like that. I think the newer ones are 500% or something. I was watching a video the other day about a guy who's he's all geeked out on these heat pumps and wants to make them as efficient as he can, and he got up to 800% on it one time on a heat pump by doing that. So that is definitely the way to heat your house, is to use a heat pump. And again, put the heat pump in the space that you want to live in during the winter, and have only one room that you heat during the winter, and live in that room most of the time. And every once in a while, if you have to go out of that room to go do something else, and just put a jacket on, you know, like you're going outside or something. It's not that big of a deal. It's only a few months, right? So, yeah, use a heat pump. I made the mistake of when I started streaming. I started streaming when it was warmer, so it wasn't a big deal, and I could just come in here and stream. But then when it got colder, I decided to use the heat from my warm room to try to warm this space here that I use for streaming. And it's kind of down a short little hallway and stuff. And I hooked up some fans. I tried to transfer the heat from my warm room into here and warm this space up. And it just, what a mistake, man. It just like doubled my my electric bill. It was really a big mistake to do that. So now I'm only going to stream when it's warm in here, and the rest of the time I'll stay in the warm room and then just come out of my warm room, you know, briefly to make food or whatever I want to do, but not live, you know, not spend hours outside of the warm room, you know. So that's the way to do it, okay, in the winter. That's the way animals do it too, really, when you think about it. Most of the animals, right, they don't, they're not running around, you know, in the middle of winter. Most of them aren't spending all their time outside. They're outside, right, in the weather. They're in a little, you know, in a burrow somewhere or something, staying warm, right? So why don't we do that? We could do that. Anyway, so heat pump's the way to go. That's how you should heat your home. You could heat it with wood or pellets or something like that, because that's renewable technically, right? They're cutting down a tree, and you're burning the tree, and then they grow another tree, and eventually it kind of balances out. But that can put soot and stuff in the air. A lot of soot. If you're using it to heat your home, then you're producing quite a bit of particulate pollution that way. So, to me, my recommendation is use the heat pump. All right. Yeah. Keep your home cool in the winter and warm in the summer. Don't, you know, I see these streamers who are obviously living in, you know, I know they're living in cooled areas of the world, streaming in the winter, and they're wearing, you know, halter tops and sleeveless blouse or t-shirt or whatever. You know, obviously they're keeping their house, you know, at a temperature that's high enough that they can, you know, walk around with just a t-shirt on or blouse, or, you know, they're keeping their home at like 70, 75, 80 degrees or whatever. And you shouldn't, that's really bad. Don't do that. You know, in the winter, you keep your house at as cold as you can stand it. You know, wear long johns and thermals, wear a jacket, you know, the hat, you know, gloves if you have to, you know. You know, it's wintertime, you know. so keep your house cooler. And the thing with that is it's just like with a car where you're driving faster. The same thing with heat. If you increase it between say 55 to 65, if you increase the heat, you know, if your house is at 55 and it's, you know, below zero outside or something, say, and your house is at 55, then it's going to be losing heat at a certain rate. And if you increase it from 55 to 60, then it will be losing heat that much more. But if you increase it from 70 to 75 or 75 to 80, that differential is even that much more, because the amount of heat that you lose from your house is related to the difference in temperature. So the warmer it is in your house, it's not only that you have to use energy to bring your house up to that temperature, you have to use a lot more energy to keep it at that temperature, because the house is losing temperature at a much quicker rate. Does that make sense? Do I have to, should I draw it? Let me draw this, because this is kind of important. I don't think people understand this. No, I just lost my webcam there. All right, I'm going to draw this here, because it's kind of hard to explain. So I'm going to draw it. I'm not going to do the math because I don't know the math, and I think that would be kind of boring for people anyway. All right, let's see here. All right, this might mess up my stream, but I'm gonna try anyway here. Okay, that needs to go away. All right. I'll go over there. All right, this will take a second for me, just a second to set this up here. All right, there we go. Okay. All right, I'll make my. All right. So. All right, so you get your house. Oh, my thing is messed up again. How did that happen? Huh. I'll be damned. All right, let's see. So you got a house. That's not even close to a house. Let me try again. Oh, that didn't work. Yeah, this is going really slow because I've got so many things going on right now on my stream. My program is going super slow. Sorry about that. But I want to explain this because people don't understand it, you know, and you really need to understand this, why it does this. All right. All right, close enough. All right, so out here, it's really cold, right? Cold. Oh, shit. All right, so cold out here. Let's say it's minus 20 C. All right, out here, really cold. If you set your house at say 55 degrees, there's a difference here. Oh, not 55. I'm mixing Fahrenheit with. All right, let's say you set it at 13 degrees in here. Let's see, I'm doing this for people who use Celsius. But so say you have it in 13 degrees is like is approximately 56 degrees or something like that Fahrenheit. So this difference here, there's 33 degrees difference, right? That means delta. That means difference. There's 33 degrees difference. So with that much difference, that you can think of that as like a force or like something that's driving the heat from the inside of your house to the outside. Okay? That's not exactly what it is, but you can think of it that way. There's 33 degrees difference that is making the heat inside your house move to the outside through the walls and the windows and whatever of your house. And now you can insulate your house, and the more insulation you put on the the slower this heat will be lost. So that's good, right? More installation is better. But if you now increase your temperature in here to say 28 degrees, instead, now you've got more difference here. You've got 48 degrees delta. So there's more difference there that's trying to move that heat out of your house. And it ends up moving more heat constantly, all the time. And the higher you make that temperature inside, the more this heat keeps moving out. And you end up burning tons and tons of electricity just by keeping your house warm. Irrespective of the amount of electricity that it takes to get it to that point. You know what I'm saying? Of course, it's going to take more energy to get it up to 28 degrees, but even if you just keep it level at 28 degrees, you're constantly wasting a ton of energy that ends up just moving, because to replace that heat that is being moved outside. So it's very, very important to keep your house as cool as possible in the winter. So does that make sense? So if you're a streamer and you care about climate and stuff like that, about climate change, want to save the planet, all that. If I catch you wearing a halter top or something on stream in the middle of winter, and I know you're living in Norway somewhere or something, then I know that you don't really care about the climate, right? So keep your house cool in the winter, and in summer, of course, it's the other way around, right? In the summer, it's you want to keep your house warmer because it's the same issue, but the other way, right? The heat is coming from the outside into your house all the time. And the colder you make your house, the faster the heat comes into your house, and you end up burning more electricity that way. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Right, okay, I was talking about that. Have a warm room at a temperature that you can live at. I keep my warm room at about 15 degrees, and in the winter I can handle that. I get used to it, and I keep a blanket on. If I can. I also do things like right now I've got this is a cool idea that you can use. My feet get cold. If your feet get cold, just take an old water bottle and stick it in the microwave and heat it up to 40 degrees or whatever, and then just keep that next to your feet. So it's right now it's about 13 and a half degrees in here right now. But I got these things that before my stream I heated these up, and I got my feet right next to them there on the floor, and that's helping me keep my feet warm even though it's cool in here. And of course I got my jacket and my hat and all that stuff on too. So yeah, and wear thermals, right? Wear your thermal underwear. Bundle up just bundle up just as if you're going to go outside, and wear that as much as you can indoors. And then in your warm room, then maybe you don't have to wear your winter coat in your warm room. Maybe you can just wear a hoodie or a sweater or something. All right. Yeah, at night, cover the windows. That's what I need to do right now. As soon as the stream's over, I'm going to cover up those windows. You may notice in the background here, let me show you this right here. This is this stuff here. This is those are those emergency blankets, you know, that Mylar stuff that reflects 99 or whatever percent of heat and all that. That's what that is. That thing on that back window back there. I bought that at the store. It was a tent. They were trying to sell it as a tent or something. Anyway, it's just that Mylar stuff, and I covered up the entire back window there. That window doesn't get much heat at all in the winter, or sunshine at all in the winter. So I just covered it up completely, and that Mylar, whatever heat there is in this room, will get reflected back instead of going out through the window. Same thing on these. I had some windows on the side here that I kept open today because there was a lot of sun. But now that the sun is set, I will take those Mylar sheets and hang them up over the windows, and that will help reflect the heat that's in this room back in instead of having it go out through the window. I mean, it's double pane windows and all that, but you know, everything you can do. You know, if you have drapes that are thick, you know, insulating drapes, you can use that. And the idea, what you want to do is, okay, talking in terms of winter, when the sun is shining, then you open those drapes and let the sun come in through the windows as much as you can. And when the sun is not shining, if it's really cloudy and overcast, or if the sun has gone down, it's nighttime, then cover them up. And that's what you have to do. It's kind of like, you know, you have to kind of keep on it as much as possible. If you're working from home, you can do that, right? That's what you need to do. And what I do, like in the morning, so you got to figure out, well, is it you got to decide, should I take the window cover, the drapes off, or window covers or whatever off in the morning? What time should I do that? How do I know that the sun is making more energy, you know, coming through the window than is being lost through the window out into the cold? From, you know, heat is going out through the window. So how do you figure that out? It's pretty hard to calculate. What I do is very simple. I just stick my hand behind the curtain next to the window, and if it's colder in that little space between the curtain and the window, then I leave the curtain there. If I stick my hand over there and it's warmer than inside the house, that means the sun is warming that up. So then I open up the curtain and let the sun come in. That's a real simple thing that you can do. I'm sure you could, you know, if you wanted to be real geeky about it, you could hook up, I mean, you could go wild, right? You could hook up thermometers and automatic curtain openers and all that. But I just put my hand in there, and if it's warmer than the inside, then I open the drapes. If it's colder, I leave the drapes closed. You know, real simple. And in the summer, right, it's the opposite, right? I don't think I spelled that right, didn't there? In the summer, you want to keep it cooler in the house and keep the heat out. And you can use the same curtains, same material and everything. I use this same material when it gets, you know, it's 100 degrees outside and I want to keep it cool inside. I put the Mylar up to keep the heat outside from coming in. It works just as well. The same idea. And in the summer, of course, you would do it opposite, right? When the sun is shining, you would want to block the sun from coming in your house. In the summer, you want to keep it warmer in that, cooler in the house. And then at night, then you take the curtains off. In fact, you open the windows, right? In the summer, you open the windows at night to let the cool air in. All right, let's see. Investments. This is one. We talked a little bit earlier about energy suppliers and how that affects the markets and all that kind of stuff. You can do that with your investments too. If you have enough money that you're invested in stocks and stuff like that, you can don't invest in fossil fuel companies. Don't, you know, invest in companies that you know, not only say that they're doing that they're climate friendly, but actually are doing stuff that's climate friendly. You know. And then if you don't invest directly, maybe your IRAs, if you have control of your IRA, where that goes, or your pension funds, sometimes you can have where they give you an option, or you tell the manager of those funds that you're, invested in indirectly, to invest in climate-friendly investments. Yeah, university endowments, anything, and all that stuff. So that's another way to do it. And then you kind of increase the, very indirectly, you increase the demand for renewable energy. Oh, refrigerants. Yeah, old refrigerators and stuff have use refrigerants that are very harmful to the climate. Not just greenhouse gases, but they can mess up the ozone, do all kinds of different stuff. So make sure your refrigerants are handled properly on your old appliances. The new ones, it's not that big of a deal. They can just the new ones don't cause as much of a problem, but especially the old ones. So when you're done with your refrigerator, you got to make sure you don't just dump it somewhere, or make sure whoever handles it knows how to recapture that refrigerant before recycling and tearing it apart or doing whatever they're going to do. Let's see. Yeah, just buy fewer stuff. Be frugal, or don't buy as much stuff. Period. We talked earlier about buying used stuff, but just don't buy things generally. Companies don't like that. They want to sell their stuff, but if they're all using, everything you buy is going to use CO2. You buy anything, any product you buy, somewhere along the chain there, it used CO2 to produce that product and put it in a store where you could buy it. If it's made out of plastic, that's that's fossil fuels, and that's energy used to make it, and then energy used to transport it, and everything else. And services, same thing. You get a service, somebody's gonna have to drive. Drive like I don't know, you have a house cleaner service or any service. Somebody's gonna have to be using energy in order to provide those products and services. So spend as much money as possible, basically, as you can. And it also means that you can, if you spend less money, you don't have to make as much money, I think we're beyond status, right? I don't think people are doing that in BS anymore, are they? Or they try to say that they have status because they have more money. I think we're beyond that. I think that's old-fashioned now, right? So why just work 20 hours a week or 10 hours a week or whatever. If you have a job that pays a lot of money, then just don't work as much, don't buy as much stuff. That everything that happens in our economy makes CO2 just about, except for the exceptions that I was talking about earlier. Here's one: use a condom. Now, a condom, is made out of, depending upon what it's made out of. But I say use a condom because, and this is probably the most important thing that you can do. There are too many people. That's the problem here. We've got too many people on this planet. We've got 8 billion people now on a planet that's probably can only handle 1 billion sustainably. But we got 8 billion. So there are too many people. So every kid that you have is going to be, whatever you or whatever the average person is using CO2, you're going to double that for every kid that you make for their lifetime. So if your kid, adopt if you have to, or whatever. But I know it's a personal choice, but it's more than a personal choice, right? If it's going to destroy the planet, then you're affecting other people, right? So I'll think about that. And also for disease, right? You got to stay healthy. I think that was one of my next ones. Yeah, here. You got an N95 mask. You got to stay healthy because if you get sick, if you get AIDS or whatever, you know, if somebody does not use a condom and they end up getting HIV, then that's a lot of. I mean, they're gonna be using CO2 to travel to their healthcare provider. They're going to be having to get medicine that takes a lot of energy to develop and use and transport and blah blah blah. You know, it's when you're healthy, you produce less CO2 because you're not using the healthcare system, which is very inefficient in the U.S. anyway. That is gobbling up, making up a whole bunch of CO2. So stay healthy is one of the important thing that you can do. And wearing a condom, right, that helps you stay healthy. And wear an N95 mask when you're in public, so you don't get the flu and you don't get COVID. You know, the pandemic's still on. We're still in COVID, right? We still have the pandemic. So you got to wear a mask when you're in public so you don't get sick. And that will end up, you know, if you get sick, then you end up producing a whole bunch of extra CO2. And the kind of mask you should wear is an N95 mask. I think I show this every stream. I show you that we have an N95. It has to say N95 on it. It has to say NIOSH on here, NIOSH, NIOSH. And it has to have straps that go all the way around your head. If it has straps that just go around your ears, that's no good. That mask might not protect you as well. And you have to have a mask that fits well, so that when you wear it, it makes a complete seal all the way around, the mask, so there are no spots anywhere that can leak through. And you can adjust. It's good to get one with adjustable. This one doesn't have adjustable straps, but you can get one with adjustable straps. This might make a little bit of noise here. Okay. This one has adjustable straps, which is better. And it has these little cushiony things that help make a really good seal on your face. So make sure you wear a mask whenever you're in public. And I know a lot of people aren't doing that. And I don't know why they're not doing it. Because they're putting themselves and other people in danger. And they're helping to destroy the planet. Because when people get sick, more resources are used, more energy is used. And that's bad. So, and people die. 100 people die a day in the U.S. from COVID every single day. You don't hear about that in the news, do you? You probably didn't know that, did you? If this is the first time you've seen my stream, you probably didn't know that. The pandemic is still on. 100 people a day dying from COVID. Those wildfires, which are related to climate change. Huge disaster, huge, terrible tragedy for all these people. You know, losing their homes and everything, and people dying. But just today, so far today, more people in the U.S. have died from COVID than died in all the wildfires so far this year. You know? Terrible, terrible tragedy, those wildfires. But COVID, more people are dying from COVID. More people, this week, more people have lost their homes due to COVID than in the wildfires. Because when people get sick, they lose their jobs and they lose their houses. So it's a tragedy. It's a real tragedy. So please wear your N95 mask when you're in public. Here's the most important one. Pass on what you've learned. So what you know about people, talk to other people about, you know, doing what they can to reduce their CO2 production as much as possible. You know, learn what you can about stuff, and try to learn the science too. If you learn as much as you can about thermodynamics and stuff like that. If you're not interested in that, fine. You know, just go by what the recommendations are of credible sources. But you know, if you like to geek out on stuff, go ahead and learn about thermodynamics and how heat gets moved around and stuff like that, and it will help you to manage your own situation, you know, your own home, and you know, like I said, your hot water heater, your heating, and everything else. So okay, so those are some tips on what you can do. I don't know how long I have been streaming here. Oh, 2 hours. Yeah, okay, that's a pretty long stream. I don't know how many viewers I have, but all right, so there we go. That's 2 hours of talking about things you can do with, and you probably haven't heard of a lot of those, right? Because there's always somebody who has an interest in you not changing what you're doing or doing what they want you to do because they're making money, you know, at the expense of the planet, you know. This platform right here is owned by a billionaire who makes money selling a bunch of new shit, right? It's on Amazon, right? Just selling a bunch of junk, you know. Not junk. I mean, just selling, trying to get consumers to consume. But the more you consume, the more CO2 you put in the air. So there are always people who are going to be fighting against this. So we have to do it ourselves. The politicians aren't going to do it because they're going to pander to the billionaires. So we got to do it ourselves, and we have to learn about it ourselves. So yeah, pass it along. Let people know about this stream. This is kind of an inefficient way. I don't know. Maybe this was 2 hours to go through this stuff. I think I did it pretty quickly. It wasn't as efficient as it could be. Yeah, I could edit this down probably to an hour and have it more efficient. But the more you know, the better you'll be able to treat the planet, basically. You know, the better decisions you'll be able to make. And the less you'll be susceptible to these people who are going to lie to you and tell you BS stuff to do, you know, to help. Because they want you to keep consuming products, and they want you to keep, you know, traveling to their conferences, and they want you to do all these different things, you know, that are harmful to the planet. But the more you know, the more you can understand and make better decisions. All right. All right, so I don't have enough people to rate anybody, so I guess we'll just go ahead and close out. I already talked about the N95 mask. It's going to be a few days here before I stream again because it's already getting down to close to 13 degrees here. And in another hour, it's going to really drop. Our temperature is dropping very quickly here. So I won't. Next few days, it's going to be too cold for me to come out here to stream. I'm going to be huddling in my warm room most of the time. So I don't know when the next time is that I'll be able to stream. But you know, make sure you hit the. If you're watching this on a VOD, get to Twitch and hit the follow button, and then you get notified. I think there's two. You got to hit the follow button, and you may have to hit the notify button too. I forget how it works, but make sure you're set up so that you get notified when I stream, because my schedule is going to be erratic because I don't know when it's going to be warm enough for me to stream. So there we go. All right, everybody, take care. Talk to you later.